Welcome back, Sunrise Daily. We'll delve into that matter now, the reactions to the 2018 Electoral Act and the assent debate. Well, joining us to look at this are two senior advocates of Nigeria. We have Mr. Mike Ozekhome, a constitutional lawyer and human rights activist, joining us from our Abuja studio. Thank you for joining us. And there with him is...
Thank you very much.
Is Mr. Emeka Ngige, senior advocate of Nigeria, also a constitutional lawyer. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. So, Mr. Ozekhome, the president gave one of the main reasons for declining access to that amendment bill was that it had to do with the applicability of the legislation. It says, I'm declining assent to the bill principally because I'm concerned that passing the new electoral bill this far into the electoral process for the 2019 elections, which commenced under the 2015 Electoral Act, could create some uncertainty about the applicable legislation to govern the process. Now, that is a major reason why he declined access. What is your position? What do you think? Was the president good to have done that?
Well, I wouldn't see how assenting to the bill will in any way create any challenges or any problems, because the amendment that were proposed were not such as to affect the preparations that INEC has already made and is still making, for which 143 billion naira was released to them by the National Assembly to procure equipments, technological equipments, computers, the smart card readers. That was what they asked for. That was why the money was given in the first instance. And essentially, the amendments were done to ensure that smart card readers are introduced and are used in the elections, that results could be transmitted electronically as soon as they are announced at polling units, so that there will be no manipulation along the line as regards what we have seen in several elections, including the Ekiti election, the Osun election, so many other elections before now, where results have been counted and are signed even by accredited representatives of the political parties and candidates, yet they find themselves being manipulated along the way. It was also proposed that the situation we saw in Kogi State, where Abubakar Audu, who had literally won the election, but still had some polling units to contend with in a scheduled election, died before he was pronounced the governor. So the amendment seeks to say, look, when a person dies before the election is concluded and before he is announced, that political party will have 21 days window to, within 14 days, go into another primaries and get a replacement for that candidate. It was also proposed to make available on its website the voters' register so that it could be accessible to the entire world. I do not see how a system that is meant to deodorize and sanitize a very corrupt electoral system, where we saw 13.5 million people actually voting in 2015 without this much celebrated PVCs. So much celebrated PVCs in 2015, 13.5 million people voted. And the Supreme Court has held in the case of Wike versus Peterside
It all started in Lagos in
that
2014.
as a matter of fact, INEC manuals and guidelines cannot supersede the Electoral Act. And as since the Electoral Act has allowed manual counting of votes, for example, it means that manual counting of votes will always be done except the Electoral Act is amended. This new amendment was to do away with such a system, to say, look, from now onwards, we will want all elections to be governed by the use of PVC, so that when you have it and you vote, and it is counted, and it is transmitted electronically, then there is imbued in the system integrity, and the elections will be believable, will be acceptable, will be fair, will be credible, and will be generally seen to have been fairly won or lost. But as it is today, the same cannot be said, because we are having a hybrid use of both PVC and manual counting. We are seeing situations where little children are allowed to queue up and vote without biometrics. In 2015, more than 13.5 million people actually voted in about 10 states without biometrics. In Kano alone, about 2.1 million people were accredited. The president and APC won 1.9 million votes. The PDP won about 255,000 votes. Only about 34,000 votes were cancelled. Of these votes won, most of the winnings went to the party that had people without accreditation voting for it, because manual voting was still allowed. I am therefore at a loss to see how a system that says, let us have integrity, let us have honesty, let us have transparency, let us have credibility in the voting process, will be disallowed. This is the fourth time, if I remember clearly, Mr. President is refusing to give his assent to the electoral bill. This is exactly the fourth time. It was done earlier, September, sometime in October. And the curious thing about it is that the president always waits for the last minute, about the effluxion of 30 days before he refuses assent.
If you can just hold your thoughts, Mr. Ozekhome, we'll come back to you.